Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about all of the team-up collections available in Marvel Future Fight right now, and I actually want to try and rank them from best to worst so that players have an idea, if they want to focus on best to worst and meta and this kind of stuff, which ones to focus on first and which ones to leave until later. In particular, when it comes to leveling up, because it's 4 million gold, 4.5 million gold per shot leveling up to get some of these extra tokens for some extra rerolls. In addition, we now have the craft feature. Now, not all of the tokens are available. The Symbiote token has yet to be added, but you can craft between all of the other ones that are available right now. So if you have a surplus of one and it happens to be the worst one and your roster doesn't align with your roster, for example, you can go ahead and convert all of those tokens into another one to get, a massive boost, potentially an extra 100, in this case 120, because you're amassing these tokens over time. So we're going to be taking a look at all of the collections. We're going to be focusing just on the characters that are available in each collection. I know my camera's kind of cutting it off here, but basically I'm just looking at the characters in the collection, and we're just cycling through and seeing which collection has the best characters and which collection has kind of the worst characters. That's essentially all that it is. Keep in mind that once a team-up collection is set, it will not be changed, and it is not bound to a particular uniform. So, for example, you can see here, perfect example, Spider-Man appears in this Symbiote collection. He was chosen for the Symbiote collection. It does not matter what uniform you have on him, even if you don't even own the Symbiote uniform for Spider-Man. It does not matter. He will still appear in your Symbiote team-up collection. He will still gain all of the buffs of your Symbiote team-up collection. Also, keep in mind, we don't know what any future team-up collections are, but I will be speculating on the next team-up collection as Thunderbolts for the MCU movie, just because it does hit on at least 8 characters that have never been used in a team-up collection. And although we already have Spider-Man and Venom and I believe Red Goblin double dipping, i.e. they appear on multiple different team-up collections, otherwise, every other character only appears once, so we have to assume, by and large, these team-up collections are going to feature characters that have never been featured before. Just another reminder here quickly before we get started, the Pierce and attack buffs that are the main feature of the team-up collections do not stack. So even though Spider-Man is in the Avengers and in the Symbiote collection, he is not gaining 10% additional Pierce, 5 from each. He's only gaining the 5% Pierce, and then in this case the 31% attack given by my Symbiote set instead of the 30% attack given by my Avengers set. However, he gains all of the Avengers buffs here, all of these 1 through 10 buffs, if they as long as they apply to him, right? Obviously, increasing fire damage doesn't mean anything to Spider-Man, but all of these buffs, 7% HP, 5% physical attack, all of these buffs apply to him, and all of these buffs apply to him. Again, the fire damage doesn't matter, but that extra 5 physical attack does. That extra instinct attack does, right? The extra HP, whatever it may be, all of those apply. All of those do stack. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. I've kind of done a bit of work ahead of time to determine what I think to be the best team-up collection. And a surprise, surprise, I think it is either the Symbiote or the Avengers team-up collection. I think you cannot go wrong with either one of these. The Symbiote collection is arguably better right now because of how insane the Symbiote synergy is. Null, Silver Surfer, Carnage. You have 3 absolutely top tier PvP characters. And then you also have Spider-Man. You also have Venom. You have some good PvEs, and then you also have, of course, Agent Venom juicing them up. However, I think for most players, they're focused more on PvE than PvP. So I would say the Avengers one does take it a little bit, that does kind of edge it out a little bit, despite having fewer mega meta characters. So in terms of like the most meta, right, with the most meta characters, it has to be like this, because of the Symbiote one having so many insane meta characters. Null's the best in PvP. Silver Surfer's probably like 3rd or 4th in PvP. Venom's very good for PvE. Spider-Man's good in both. Carnage is not bad either. You have just way too many heavyweight champions, but it's mostly geared towards PvP. Avengers, on the other hand, is mostly geared towards PvE. where, as you can take a look here, we have Hulk, we have Thor, we have Iron Man. Now, none of them are, besides Hulk, I would say none of them are like top tier ABX ABL PvE, which I think some people would value more, but Hulk is. And then Thor's no slouch for pretty much everything. World boss, farming, he just blows through all this content, GBR, etc. Captain Marvel's very good. Hawkeye's not bad. Iron Man obliterates content with his uniform effect. Cap is not bad. So in terms of like overall value, I think the Avengers one is actually the best. It does have the most tier 4s as well, so time will tell. Over time, this team up collection should get worse, unless the devs are really going to cherry pick the Avengers over and over again, which is totally possible. They've done it in the past. Look at how many uniforms Iron Man has and Captain America has. Like these characters here represent like over 100 uniforms easily, right? You have like Thor, Cap, Hulk, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Black Widow each have double-digit uniforms. They all have like 10 plus uniforms. It is insane. But over time, if the devs are not very, very biased towards the Avengers, this one should get worse because they've already plateaued, right? Whereas if you look at some of these other team-up collections, for example, I think Midnight Suns is one of the weakest team-up collections. Even though Doctor Strange and Ghost Rider carry this shit hard, the rest of them are so ass. Moon Knight, we're not even talking about him anymore. But look at, like, Wong got a tier 4. He's irrelevant. And then you have a bunch of bums who don't even have tier 4. And it has the fewest number of characters, right? If you compare, for example, Midnight Suns, sure, they could add characters to this team-up collection. That's never been done before, but it could be done. But they have the lowest amount of characters in a team-up collection possible right now, which is 9. So their ceiling, even if all of these characters, Blade, Iron Fist, Chasm, etc., if they all got banger tier 4s and uniforms, it's still only 9 tier 4s. Look at this shit, 12. They have fully, like, 30% more characters because they're going from 9 to 12. So it's just a boom, it's a boost. You have more options, you have more opportunities to be good. You also have more marquee characters. Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Carnage, Venom, Silver Surfer, Null, Green Goblin. Right? You have 7 like super marquee characters that even a casual Marvel fan ought to be able to name them at some point in time. So yeah, for that reason, for all those reasons there, I would say that the Midnight Suns is probably the worst one, or one of the worst ones. So we gotta put it down near the bottom. Unfortunately, it's not that it's bad, and it's not that Ghost Rider and Doctor Strange aren't really good with the extra buffs. They are very, very good. But we're looking at the totality, right? The totality of the buffs and what they can offer. And we're also trying to, we're not going to say like, oh, they're all really good, guys. None of them are bad. Like, obviously, 10% extra pierce and 40% attack is very good. I'm not saying it's bad and you should never get it. But if this is going to be the ranking, then what is the point of making the video? Boring. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So we're not going to go there, right? So if we have to rank them like that, I think Midnight Suns kind of has to take the L there. We got about we have 2 PvE metas and then 1 PvP kind of off meta, if you count the combination of Ghost Rider's value and Wong's value. Then we got Sinister Six here. This one also has, again, the lowest possible value here with very few tier 4s. Only 2 tier 4s. Actually, it's worse. This one has fewer tier 4s than this one. This one has 4. This one has 2. With no PvP value, this one's actually way worse. I don't know what I was cooking there. Sinister Six is terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I actually think that the Sinister Six one, it absolutely bumps up Midnight Suns, and Sinister Six absolutely takes the cake. I completely forgot how garbage this one is. There's only 2 tier 4s here. This is so bad. This is like painfully bad. Yeah, and they're not even meta. They're not even technically meta. They're just kind of like barely hanging on here. So yeah, this one is by far the worst one. X-Force gets quite a bit better. You have a lot of tier 4s now. Angel, we don't really talk about. X-23, we don't really talk about, but Wolverine, Deadpool, Cable, and Storm, very, very strong there. And you have 2 for PvE, 2 for PvP. You get a lot of really nice balance. You also have 1 extra character, so it's 10 instead of 9. Again, you also have a ton of marquee characters that have their own movies that feature heavily in the sort of the ethos and the sort of the myth of Marvel's X-Men in general. So I think this one is pretty solid. Yeah, I think overall it has to take kind of the B category here. It has to be a little bit better than Midnight Suns. I know Doctor Strange probably has more overall value than any of these characters here, but it's just him and Ghost Rider holding down the fort, right? And they don't have any PvP presence besides a little bit of Ghost Rider. whereas you have a ton of stuff here. A lot of it does overlap for sure. And, you know, Cable is not necessarily meta anymore because of Psylocke, because of Gambit, but still quite strong. And Deadpool, Wolverine have so much value for PvP, bringing that up here. So then that brings us over to Guardians. Guardians has even more characters, but it does feel like a lot of these characters have fallen flat. You basically have no one who is meta besides Adam Warlock. So technically speaking, this is as bad as Sinister Six because you only have genuinely one meta character, right? Dr. Octopus in Sinister Six, and then you have Adam here. But unlike Sinister Six, where you only have Venom as the only other tier 4, who also gets featured in Symbiotes, you've got Gamora, you've got Beta Ray Bill, and you've got Star-Lord. So there's actually more overall value here, in addition to the sort of synergistic properties of the Guardians, more so than some of these other categories. So I'd probably put Guardians ahead of Sinister Six and put them in the same category as Midnight Suns. Again, I can't put them ahead of Midnight Suns. I certainly can't. And you could almost argue, like, just sheerly off the value of Doctor Strange and Ghost Rider, Midnight Suns might deserve to be up here. But as it stands now, I would kind of put them there. So I think this is how it breaks down ultimately. Again, if you have a PvP focus rather than a PvE focus, you should absolutely flip-flop these two and maybe even bring X-Force up because of how strong Wolverine and Deadpool are. But I think this is really good for the majority of players. If you're being very generous, I think you could say this as well, maybe even this if you're very ABX, ABL focused, because Doctor Strange obviously carries so many days, and then Ghost Rider is an insane support. So I could see that as well, but just keep in mind that it's different characters, or in different players, different needs, and also different characters on your roster, right? Who do you have? Who do you have tier 4, etc. Last thing I want to do here for fun is Thunderbolts. I actually want to introduce the idea of, if we get a Thunderbolts team-up collection, obviously this is not the official logo, but if we get a Thunderbolts team-up collection, what would it look like and how meta could it be? So if we look at the list of characters in the movie, we know for sure Winter Soldier is going to be there, Sentry, Yelena, Red Guardian, Taskmaster, and Ghost. That's 6 characters right now. Those 6 characters have never been featured in a team-up collection, so it would be their first time. However, 6 is too few because we know that all of the other team-up collections right now have at least 9 characters, which means we should try to put in at least 3 more characters. So we add those 6. Let's say they're going to add US Agent as a new character in the game, which makes sense, and he would be in the team-up collection. That's 7. Then we have Red Hulk, who was in the original Thunderbolts, and again, it could make sense. It's Thunderbolt Ross, right? That's literally his name. He should be in that team-up collection, and it would make sense that they gave him the uniform. And then possibly somebody like a Baron Zemo, because he's been in several iterations and he's been in the leadership position in the Thunderbolts. That would put us at 9. That's probably what I'm comfortable guessing. I don't like doing too much speculation with stuff like this because it's kind of like speculation squared. US Agent, I don't think is a big stretch. Red Hulk is not a big stretch. Zemo is the only one that I'm a little bit iffy on, but I don't mind adding Zemo to this list because he's not like a super meta character, right? If I was speculating on who they're going to add to Thunderbolts and then I just cherry picked a bunch of like super meta characters, then obviously it seems like I'm inflating the value of Thunderbolts. But as it stands right now, Zemo's completely irrelevant to the meta. So basically what you're looking at with this list, with this hypothetical list of 9 characters from Winter Soldier down to Zemo, you're looking at Sentry, who's goated for PvP, almost as good as Null, possibly as good as Null once he gets team-up collection, right? And then Winter Soldier, who's almost as good as Dr. Octopus for PvE, for ABX content. Then he probably would be pushed over the edge by having that extra team-up collection. Yelena's not bad. She'll obviously would need a new uniform, and tier 4, that's like tons of speculation there. Ghost Rider's probably not going to be very good. Let's be realistic. Taskmaster's a support. So I don't see this group of characters as a team-up collection going that far, considering that you're resting a lot of your value on the existing, power of Sentry and Winter Soldier, with then like your hypothetical cross your fingers for Yelena and maybe like a surprise tier 4 for Red Hulk out of nowhere. I don't know. Could be good enough, but then again, if Red Hulk is that good, isn't he going to compete with Winter Soldier for the same role? So it's a bit contradictory, don't you think? Right? So it's kind of weird. So honestly, I think this is probably the safest place to put Thunderbolts. I think, again, if you're more PvE inclined than PvP inclined, I think it actually drops down to this, which makes it a pretty worthless or like low value team up collection. But if you're really into PvP, then it could go pretty high. It could maybe go as high as this. If they give Yelena a really good PvP uniform, if they go really hard, like if they give Sentry a new uniform, right? Things could really start to ramp, and it could really look like kind of a competitor to the Symbiote team up collection. But I think this is probably the safe bet here, maybe even here. Or you could do something like this if you think the treatment of Doctor Strange and Ghost Rider is a little bit too unfair. But then again, I don't want to be called like a Doctor Strange homer. Doctor Strange? Yeah, Doctor Strange homer, Doctor Strange bias, because I like the character so much. Anywho, that's my ranking. That's what I think of it. I actually think it's really interesting to consider these characters in these situations. But it just goes to show you how many meta characters are still missing a team-up collection in general. It's crazy how many characters still have nothing to their name as far as the system goes. Anyways, hopefully this helped you out. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button if you enjoyed the content, or the thumbs down if you hated it. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.